Welcome to the Landscaping Podcast. My name is Joel Barnett and I am your host. And in today's episode, I'm talking with Dylan Barker from Jade Built. And unfortunately, it's the second episode I've ever done which has had some technical difficulties, almost as much as the way I said difficulties. But the audio is 100% fine. The only bad thing is if you wanted to see what Dylan looks like, the camera stayed stuck on me the whole time. So when I talk, the camera's on me. When Dylan talks, the camera is on me, frozen in the place I was before it changed to him. So no idea what happened, but hopefully it doesn't happen on the next episode and Zoom doesn't let me down again. But it is a great conversation with Dylan. And I think I knew at some stage that he worked for Paul Pritchard previously, but um, I probably forgot, like I'd forget a lot of things. And it was good to be reminded of that and found out that he did his apprenticeship there. And then also talk about how then he went and did the two most recent garden show builds that Paul's designed, and then also has gone on the block as well, which is yet to air. So that'll be something good to keep an eye out on. It was good hearing how Dylan had worked in domestic and then commercial and then back into domestic again and talking about what those different experiences were like. We give some great advice about what it's like to start your own business and what you have to do in the early days. And also then goes on to talk about some of the stresses of having your own business and not just supporting your own living wage. So it's a great conversation with Dylan, despite not being able to look at him. So hopefully you enjoy this chat with Dylan Barker. Dylan, thank you for joining us on the Landscaping Podcast. My first question for you is, how did you start in the industry?
I started as an apprentice under Paul Pritchard when he was on the tools and predominantly doing the landscaping side of things. He was still doing design back then, but yeah, he was predominantly a landscaper, landscape construction. So that's how I sort of started. I sort of had a love for getting out in the garden with my mother and my grandmother. So they had a little cottage house up in Whittlesea. So being the oldest in a single parent household, was my job to get out and mow the lawns and do all those sorts of things. And as a young teenager, I sort of found myself just doing the simple things like mowing the lawns and weeding and stuff. And then we created gardens and then sort of grew from there. So that's sort of how I got into that, and then finished school and didn't really know what I was going to do. I thought about carpentry. I wanted to get into the trades, but then I thought, well, try and find something that I enjoy doing. And I sort of led me to that and got put onto Paul through mutual contacts. And yeah, the rest is history. I started my apprenticeship and did that with Paul, and yeah, that's how I sort of got into it.
All right. So how long ago was it that you did that, like started? How long have
That
you been?
was 20 years ago, 21 years ago.
All right.
Yeah, so a while ago. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you got
Paul
qualified.
still didn't have hair then, so
That, that was my next question. I assumed you didn't, but you're one of those people that'd be weird to see with hair.
yeah, that's right.
Let's go back to the 60s and look and see how it looked then.
That's a fair while ago, black and white.
So you got qualified with him, and then what? Or did you stay there, or what did you do then?
Yeah, so I did a few years with Paul and sort of learnt the high end, and Paul's gardens then were we've sort of worked in around the Hawthorn sort of Canterbury area. So everything over there was like sort of cottage style gardens. Not all of it. We sort of did some modern stuff and just kept up with the times and the fads and all that kind of stuff during the early 2000s. But predominantly sort of cottage gardens. So I did that, and then just through curiosity, I just wanted to experience. I knew that landscaping wasn't just that. I knew that landscaping was commercial. I knew that it was schools. I knew that it was a whole lot of different other areas, and I started to explore that. So I went and worked with TLC with Scotty Wynd for a short period, and a couple of others just to sort of get some experience. I went with Scotty just purely because of the MIFGS connection. Paul wasn't doing that stuff at that stage. And then worked with a couple of others just to try commercial, just to see what that was all about, and just to sort of dip the toe in a bit, and then did that for a bit, and then sort of got into construction and moved up to Queensland, so which is where we are now. So yeah, I've sort of been back and forth a little bit between Melbourne and Brisbane, but Brisbane's home now.
Did you have anything to do with Paul's when you were at TLC, like the construction on?
He'd started doing that, so that was like late 2000s. but we were part of the landscaping crew with Simo from Land Art and a few of that. So there's a few of us there, which was a pretty good crew back then. But no, didn't do too much in the pool. We were just all about the landscape construction side of things. So yeah.
And did you do any MIFGS builds while you're with him?
We did, yeah, we did. The first year I was there, I think we did the territory display, the Ford territory display when that got first released. So Ford engaged us to do that. So I worked with that crew doing that one, which was a boardwalk in around the Ford territory up on the mulch, big pile of mulch. So yeah, that was a good one. So that sort of ticked or scratched an itch, I suppose you'd say. So that was a really good experience. So yeah, that was pretty much the first one, and then we obviously went on to do a bit of a gap between them, but went on to do the stuff with Paul recently.
Yep. And how was commercial? How was your experience doing that?
Yeah, I didn't like it personally. I think because I'd done so much high-end landscapes that you just sort of it's all about the attention to detail and you're taking care and pride in everything you do. And that's not to say that they don't do that in the commercial industry, obviously, but I just found that it was a lot of just get it in and get it done and keep moving. So with the companies that I worked with for that. So I mean, again, it depends on the jobs and it depends on the projects and all that kind of thing. But I just felt that I preferred to do a lot more of the high-end attention to detail, working with good materials and stuff like that, and good plans and I don't know, a bit more. I'm going to say pride in your work. I know that's not the right way to say it, but there's just little bit more love come out of residential landscape than there is, I feel, than the commercial spaces. So yeah.
Yeah, there's all the clients care about the project more, so that's sort of something that you need to take into account when you're doing the projects as well. So
Yeah, I think that's the thing. And I think the main point with it is, and again, no disrespect to commercial landscaping, but I think a lot of commercial landscapes is run by project managers and they're spending other people's money. So it's just, yeah, get it in. Have we ticked all the boxes? Is it okay? Yeah, move on. Whereas with landscaping, I feel from a residential perspective is people have potentially been saving for 10 years to put this pool in or to extend the outdoor entertainment area or whatever it might be. So I think there's a lot more love and care and they've been looking forward to it for so long that yeah, there's just a bit more buy-in and a bit more, yeah, I just think it's just different. It's just different.
yeah, like we could do a job like a $200,000 job, and the client thinks, yeah, it looks great, thanks for that. And then you could do like a $15,000 job, and the client thinks it's the most amazing thing in the world, and they're like super excited about it, showing everyone photos, and
Yeah.
like they think it's awesome. Whereas
Yeah.
you don't get that in commercial, I don't think, the passion of it.
No, no. I mean, again, it depends on the job. I've done some jobs that were pretty high profile jobs up here in Brisbane, and they've been on the news or in the newspapers and all that kind of stuff because they've taken a certain amount of time, or it's an upgrade that's taken 30 years to do, like the Redcliffe foreshore back in the day that we did. So there's a lot of publicity around it. So there's, the ABC building was another one. So, there's a lot of publicity around it and it's fantastic and all that kind of stuff. But I just don't think you get the appreciation from the client or the people that are managing it or whatever that you would in a high-end residential sense. So for me and for the boys, you go to so much hard work. There's nothing better than getting the pat on the back at the end of it. And when you don't get that, I think sometimes you sort of just go, oh yeah, on to the next one. So I think there's a lot to be said about the residential work and how much praise you actually receive from the hard work that you do.
Yeah, you get more praise doing residential and more money doing commercial, I think.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
it's yeah, pretty much. That's yeah. I wish we could sort of melt them together.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening.
So when you went up to Brisbane, what was the plan up there? Moving up there, were you going to work with? Well, did you work for other people when you moved up there?
Yeah, pretty much. So I basically moved up and just wanted to get away from Melbourne for a bit. It was just, there's a lot of people that sort of tick that box or have experienced that. And I just wanted to get away. So I just basically packed up and took off up the coast and then started working some construction. Got a job in construction. So sort of dabbled in that. So that was another sort of thing that we touched in and touched on. And
When you say doing construction, what sort of work what do you mean?
so it was funny. So when I moved up, I got offered a position as a labourer in Noosa building Viridian Resort, which is up in the hinterland. So there used to be the old banana farm up at the top of Hastings Street, and it's sort of surrounded by the national park. And that got sold off, and then I think it was Lend Lease. I think it might have been that ended up purchasing it and turning it into a resort. So I managed to get up there while they were still doing construction and before landscaping had started. So I was just up there, pushing barrows and doing concrete and bits and pieces and whatever. And then they found out that I was a landscaper and they said, oh, okay, well, what have you done? And then, they sort of found out about me and a bit of my past. And before you know it, I was the external works foreman for a big construction company and I was managing Noosa Council. At that stage, it was still Noosa Council and dealing with all the restrictions of working in a national park, which is a nightmare, and then essentially landscaped the entire resort. So yeah, I know you just feel like I just keep getting dragged back into landscape. I try to get out and then get dragged in. But so yeah, that was the extent of that. So I tried to get into construction, but yeah, here I am back into it.
So was that like awesome work going from working in Melbourne going up to Noosa? Because that's something I've dreamt of.
Yeah. Oh, it was. Yeah, it was a bit nerve-wracking because you're changing because I got into construction and the likes, but it was great. I mean, one thing I've noted about a lot of Victorians have got a very good work ethic in general. And whenever anyone up here, whenever you hear that someone's from Victoria, then, you're basically going to get a foot in the door straight away just because you're from Victoria and they understand you got that good work ethic. So I got my foot in the door pretty quickly there and it is awesome. There's absolutely no doubt about it. You got no winter. The coldest days you're out in the sun and it's, 18, 19 degrees and it's just, it is as good as it sounds. It really is.
Yeah.
So, but there's pros and cons as well. So you got the humidity. You got the wet season up here. So the wet season's pretty annoying. There's definitely pros and cons. So,
and to get what's the summer like? Is it hard?
Summer sits around between 30 and 33. And the killer is the humidity. So you might have low humidity and it's okay, but you might have low humidity and 30 degrees, but then you might have high humidity and 30 degrees, and that's a stinker. But then you might have the reverse and it'd be 33 degrees and it's slightly different. So the difference in those days working in those conditions is completely different. So It's all about the humidity. It's not about the actual heat. But the good thing about it is that during that wet season, you get the Friday afternoon storms, and it just cools everything off, and you reset and start again. So, yeah.
Is that the funny word of saying you go to the pub, or is it actually like storms?
Pretty much. It's hot enough to drink all the time up here.
Yeah, yeah. No, it'd be good for my weight loss too. Working up there in the summer, I'd say.
It is. Yeah, good shred. So we're heading into that. So we've shed the winter coat soon. So it's already started. It's pretty humid and muggy up here today. So, but yeah, the boys are struggling. But yeah, we'll thin the blood and get into it and hit another Christmas rush.
Yeah, you're starting already.
Yep.
Yeah, my old boss, he went up to Queensland and started the business up there as well. And it's funny you say that about the work ethic because that's something he struggled with. Because he had me and another guy who was like more of a Trojan than what I was, like work like a maniac, more than what I did. So he had two of us, and then going up to Queensland workforce, and like with the surf was up, they just don't come into work.
Yeah,
so, yeah, completely different.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, if you're working on the coast, then that's something you got to contend with. We're in Brisbane, so we don't really have that. You've sort of got to drive an hour, so we don't really have that, but it is an issue up the coast. I know people that have got businesses on both Sunshine Coast and Gold Coast, and they have that issue. But I don't know what it is, whether it's just I'm getting old and I don't know, but I just feel that the work ethic has dropped off a lot over the last, 5 to 10 years and people don't work as hard. And that's a vast generalization. I get that, but I just feel that the work ethic has dropped off considerably.
I reckon people would say the same, like Victorians in Victoria as well, about the same, and like people from where they are, like it's just one of those things that happens, I suppose.
Yeah.
Things change.
There's definitely a direct correlation with that work ethic side of things. We've got a couple of Victorian boys in our crews, and they're very hardworking and the likes. No discredit to the boys that aren't, but there is a direct correlation. It is.
Yeah, and it can also be like I've also noticed like people from more like Geelong or Melbourne compared to more rural areas. Like they're harder working, sort of more polite generalization, but
I don't know why it is. I don't know what it is, but that's definitely there, 100%.
So doing that construction work, where'd you go to then?
Then that building stopped, and that was during the GFC. So construction up here really hit the skids. So then I got into commercial landscaping because that was pretty much the only work that was available, and everyone was like trying to get into those commercial landscaping jobs, and managed to do that for quite a few years. And yeah, was a foreman and did a number of pretty high-end projects throughout Brisbane and Moreton Bay and Redcliffe, notably. And then did that for quite a few years, and then started up the business, and off we went. So yeah, again, did commercial for as long as I could do commercial, and then yeah, got back into what I wanted to do and started had kids then, and sort of thought, yeah, I want to build something as most business owners sort of want to do, and then yeah, here we are.
Was it something you'd always thought that you were going to do eventually, or was it just sort of something that came up?
I come from a family where everyone has a small business. Every family inside of our family has a family business. So I watched my father do it. So my father was a landscaper down on the Gold Coast, and he did a lot of stuff in Sanctuary Cove and Movie World and all those kind of things down on the northern end of the Gold Coast. So I was raised in a family that had a small business, and then my grandfather had a small business as well. So everyone sort of had a small business. So I grew up in it with that work ethic that, well, that's the norm. That's what you do. So as a result of that, I'm sort of, yeah, here we are. And yeah, it's just sort of been instilled in me, I think, that and their work ethics and seeing what they did and how hard they worked and all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, here's another generation of it.
And was it difficult going? Because I imagine did you start doing residential straight away, or did you start in commercial when you started the business?
Residential straight away. Yeah,
So
yeah.
was it hard going from working in commercial for all those years to then trying to change over into residential?
Not overly, not up here. It's a bit different up here. But I mean, I by that stage, I mean, I'd been in multiple different, the landscaping industries for over 10 years. So I sort of, I don't know, it's just once you've got it, you've got it. So there was no issues with it whatsoever. I think the hardest part was starting up the residential side of things and then delving into commercial and then having to get back into the workplace health and safety stuff. I think once you sort of stop doing that for a few years, you've got to play a bit of catch up and all that type of stuff. And that's obviously that side of work has ramped up massively over the last 5 years. So that was probably the hardest part, is getting all that kind of thing sorted. But I think with residential, you speak to your clients, you've got your plans, you've got your thing. Like it is what it is. You just do it. So that doesn't change.
But was it like difficult getting work to start with? Because if you work in your residential, you know a lot of residential landscapers, and if they can send you work, and
Yeah.
you have a lot more contacts within what you're working with.
Yeah, 100%. So that was difficult because whilst I build a lot of contacts wherever I go, everyone that knows me knows that. But starting from scratch back up here was very tough. So I was just using local community pages. I was building fences, and I was just doing like whatever would come in just to start. So having a young family as well, that was even extra pressure, more pressure that I had to deal with. But we just started doing whatever. And it didn't matter because at the end of the day, I knew I had to put food on the table. So, and then from that, you get, one landscaping job comes in, or one, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. And then before you know it, you're where you're at. So, but I think that's probably the hardest thing is in the early days, as most would do, is you just take on anything. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what you think of it, whether you like the job or not, you just do it. And then you get to the point where you're actually enjoying it and getting paid well and happy days.
Yeah, that was the thing like it's a trap you can get into, and I certainly got into it. I was doing that at the start as well. I took on everything and
Yeah.
said yes to everything. So that can be a trap, like saying yes to everything and then like overselling and under delivering.
Yeah.
But what I found until I stopped landscaping when I went to the bank. So I had the business going for 3 years, I think it was, before I went to the bank. And that's when I was just saying yes to everything and I had no direction. But then
Yeah.
after going to the bank and having that break, then I came back with a direction of where I wanted to go and the
Yeah.
type of jobs I wanted to work on. So
Yeah.
did you develop much of a vision of the type of jobs you wanted to do, or did they just organically happen?
I mean, it sort of just organically happens. I mean, no one's got control of the jobs that are coming in, but I mean, I know what you're saying in sense of, where you want to be. And I mean, I think for me, it was just a matter of building good relationships with designers, and then, just working your way up the pecking order, I suppose, with the designers and what they were feeding you. And I think that, yeah, that's all I did. I just kept taking whatever I could get. And then I've got to the point where it's like, you get a job where, it might be a retaining wall and you just go, I just don't want to do it. So I think, yeah, the more relationship you build, the more jobs that start coming in, then you obviously get the power to pick and choose and sort of cut out the ones that you just really don't want to do. And yeah, that's sort of what I did. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
most people are the same.
Yeah. I didn't even have the idea to start like to try and target designers. I was just
Yeah.
like, yeah, I had no idea what I was doing basically. It was
Yeah.
podcast would have been handy to listen to give me some tips or a business coach, someone, not just
Yeah.
making it up as I go.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I had the vision to obviously just to do the nicest work you possibly can. I think that's everyone wants to do the nicest work they want to do. When I first started, money wasn't as freely spent as what it probably is now. So I think in today's sort of industry, it's easier, not easy, easier. But I think, yeah, when I first started just coming out the back of the GFC, yeah, the money was tight. So yeah, that's sort of how I ended up doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was the same time because my boss was in Queensland when that happened. So
Yeah.
I started in 2009. So like yeah, so it was around that same time, and
Yeah.
it hurt Queensland. Well, the landscaping businesses in Queensland seemed to be a lot more effective than what they did in Victoria. Even
Massive.
though I'm sure they were everywhere, but it seemed like yeah, it was worse up in Queensland for landscaping at least.
Yeah. I think thinking back now, landscaping up here has come such a long way in the last 10 years. Designers are taken more seriously, landscapers are more taken more seriously. I don't know if that's because of the influx of Southerners that are coming up here who have more pride in their gardens and outdoor areas, and they've moved up here for the purpose of having an outdoor life. So they're investing a lot more money in outdoors. But for a long time, I felt that there wasn't necessarily as much time or money spent on their gardens and their landscapes. And I remember when my old man, it sticks with me because my old man used to say it back in the 80s when we moved up from Vic back then. He said the same thing, like there just wasn't that emphasis on it. Everyone was very proud of their lawns, but that was it, and they'd have a few palm trees and that was it. It was literally grass and palm trees. So, considering where we're at now and driving through Brisbane and the Gold Coast and all that, and you see all the gardens and the botanical gardens and where we're at now, it's massive for our industry. And we've come a long way, I think, from what I can remember in my lifetime. So, it's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty wild for me to think back to what it was like when I started as well. And like Geelong is also sort of behind Melbourne in that sort of thing as well. And it's
Yeah.
again, it's also like people from Melbourne coming down here or having a house down here that sort of starts building it up. And now, yeah, like you say, everyone's spending money now, so that there's all sorts of projects you can work on that are high end.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I don't know, I mean, social media's probably got something to do with it. You've got shows like The Block and you've got all those types of things that I think it's very much front and center now is, being proud of your house and doing those types of things. So it's great for us. It really has come a long way since I started. So it's good.
Yeah. So what was it like with staff? Did you put any on early on, or were you doing it solo?
Majority was solo, and then I had a mate come on, and then yeah, we just started pretty quiet and just did everything ourselves, and then it just got to the point where we got so much work, we just got to bite the bullet, and then off we go. So yeah, that's the scary part. That's the scary part when you go, okay, I'm not only am I responsible for paying my wages, but I've now got to pay, this one and that one. And before you know it, it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And then, yeah, you've got the wages that you've got to consider. So I think that's the sort of an unwritten thing that not many people consider is, yeah, being a business owner and having the pressure and stress of not only your own bills and not only the company bills, but yeah, subconsciously, if you're a half decent person, you're also considering the fact that you've also got to pay for, it's another five houses, another five mortgages or rents or whatever it is. So there's a lot of pressure there.
Yeah, it's best not to think about it.
Yeah, you switch off.
There's
Yeah,
enough pressures to worry about rather than
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because you're thinking I need to keep making money, otherwise I'll lose my house. But so maybe other five other people will as well.
Yep. Yeah, it's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure and yeah, it's yeah, you just have to switch off and just keep, one foot in front of the other and don't think about it. But yeah, if you're a deep thinker like I am, then that's something that, that weighs on your mind a little bit.
Right. Luckily I'm very shallow in the thinking world, so I don't think about anything at all.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
annoys my wife too because I'll just like go to bed and then I'll just go to sleep straight away. And she'll be there thinking about all sorts of random things and
Yeah.
can't get to sleep. And then she gets angry at me because I went to sleep so quick as well. And it just
Yeah.
spirals out of control.
Yeah, yeah. No, there's been many sleepless nights, and it's not. I mean, it's not from stress or from anything that we can control or anything, but it's just that we can't control. Sorry, but yeah, it's just one of those things that niggles at the back of your mind. You are responsible for a lot.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it was like five, was that the most you've had at any time?
We've recently got up to 12.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
so yeah, we got up to 12, and that was a nightmare. It was good, it was sustainable, but it was hard. And yeah, we've pegged things back down now. We're down to 10. So it's only two, but it makes a massive difference.
Right.
So yeah, we're basically running two jobs will be active at any given time, and we'll normally have one job that's being excavated and one job that's, concrete's curing or whatever. So we've got a couple sitting in front and then a couple that are being worked on at any given time.
And so are you doing design as well? I saw on your Instagram page said you do design, but
Do a little bit, just the small scale stuff. But we work with probably 5 or 6 designers up here in Brizzy and Paul down in Melbourne. So he's starting to dip his toe into the Queensland market as well, and we're doing a big one for him up at Mooloolaba at the moment. So yeah, we do a little bit, which is just sort of the general sort of stuff that sort of any landscaper would sort of give advice on and that type of stuff. But in terms of sitting down and doing proper full-on designs, the majority of that now is getting referred to people like Paul and a couple of others designers. Yeah.
so who are some of the other designers you work for?
Sandy from Silverleaf Design. She's up and coming. She's works for some very high-end landscape architects up in Brisbane, and she's sort of just wanted to step out a little bit of that of the pressure of the high-end architecture stuff that she's been doing, and doing the Brisbane Wharf and some massive jobs. And now she's started up her own thing, so I've been feeding her quite a bit of work, and she's fantastic. She's attention to detail and that coming from the higher side of her architecture is fantastic. And yeah, there's a couple of others as well. There's Julia from Folium. So she's another one that's come from a big landscape design company up here, and she's sort of dipping her toes in it as well. So sort of working with a few that are doing small scale stuff and starting up their own businesses. So I'm trying to help them as much as I possibly can. I help them, it helps me, it's one less thing that I have to worry about, that type of thing. So that's sort of where we're at the moment. So but yeah, very busy up here. They're very busy as a result of it, and yeah, it works nicely.
So how have you got so five guys on a job at once? If you got only got two jobs going with 10, or what's the breakup of those 10 people?
Yeah, pretty much. So you will have 4 or 5 on each job. So we'll have, if we've got one, okay, if we've got one being excavated and that type of thing, then we'll have our trucks there working with the excavation and all that type of stuff. So there's normally 1 or 2 guys doing that, getting jobs prepped, and then we'll have 3 or 4 on either of those. It just depends. It's like it depends what we're doing, but that's pretty much the rough breakdown. So we'll have a few on each, and then someone working with the excavation to get things set.
Are you on tools yourself?
I'm, yes and no. I try not to be, but it's hard. So I try to get all my quotes done and get all of the admin and all that type of stuff sorted. And then as soon as I can get on site to help and help the foreman and try to spend some time with the apprentices and try to teach them as much as I possibly can. I think that's one of the main things is most of the foremen have got apprentices underneath them and they're trying to run jobs and all that type of stuff, but they're also responsible for teaching. And if I can try to take some of the pressure off and grab one of the apprentices and take them to the side and try to help them with what they're doing and point out things that they need to be focusing on or whatever, then I try to do that as much as I possibly can. So yeah, that's sort of the breakdown of what we do and how we do it.
Yeah, it's crazy how much, depending on the experience of like the foreman, how much an apprentice can slow them down.
Yeah,
Like you can almost get the same amount of work done with one person by themselves as two people if they're say one if you're teaching them as you go. So
correct.
yeah, it can be tricky to see who trains who.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. But I think the good thing about it is the first year is normally really hard. But once you get them to the second year, I found, and maybe I'm different to everyone else, but by the time the boys get to the second year, they're awesome. So whether that's credit to the foremen that are training them or whatever, or the work environment that we've got, or we're just been lucky with the apprentices that we've got, by the time they hit second year, they're well and truly, doing their own thing and understand it. And yeah, just in those last couple of years, it's all just about tweaking the finer skills and then, yeah, off they go.
And do you use many subcontractors? Like is the excavation, are you doing that yourselves or?
No, so that's one of the ones things. That's one of the one things that we've cut out. We don't. We whilst most of the boys have got their tickets and all that and are more than competent, it's just easier for us to just call, book it in. We know what the operators are doing, how they're doing it. We understand how they operate. We just make sure that we're on site to help them and spot them and do that. And then it's just one less thing that I have to worry about. Don't have to worry about registrations on trucks or servicing of excavators or where am I storing it? Like it's all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think it's much easier for us in it from an excavation perspective. It's just that gets subbied out. So that and pool fencing and a few of those little bits and pieces that you just go, yeah, we haven't got the time for it.
Yeah. Have you done it at any stage?
Pool fencing,
Yeah.
little bits.
Yeah. Same.
There's a reason why. There's a reason why I don't do it.
That's same.
Ellie's fine. Ellie's easy, but when it comes to glass and all that kind of stuff, it's just
Yeah.
I'd have to. Yeah, we'd rely on certain people to be on site to do those things, and that sometimes can be challenging as well. So when if you're relying on your skilled labour, your skilled boys, then yeah, it can be tough.
Yep. Yeah, landscaping crew we know started doing pool fences, so I just get them to do it. And
Yeah.
they're sort of set up to do it. They know what they're doing. You don't have to worry about anything, so you can trust them.
We've got enough to worry about. Like if
Yeah,
you can study it out and you can help another company or whoever, like whatever. Like you don't have to. You don't have to take on everything. Well, that's where I'm at the moment. You don't have to take on everything.
yep.
Just do what you do best and let the others do the rest. So
I like how you rhymed that too. That was good.
yeah, I didn't plan that.
Now you mentioned the block earlier on about how what the industry's like and people have got watching those TV shows, and you've been on there a couple of times, and then you're on again this year, aren't you? So when did
Yeah,
all that start?
yeah. So my brother was on it and won it. I don't even know how many 8 years, 9 years ago, or whatever it was. He did the Elstonwick series, and
That was Josh and Elise.
Josh and Elise. Yeah, yeah. And Dave Franklin was the landscaper for that one. So I flew down for that, and I just said to Dave, "I'm just going to come and help you. I'm just another tradie. Just boss me around, tell me what to do. It's just one less guy that you need to pull away from other jobs." And so I got in there and hooked in there with his boys, and then yeah, basically did that. It was the first in-ground concrete pool ever on the block. So that was pretty
Oh.
chaotic in the backyard. So yeah, we were lucky enough to win that. That was pretty cool.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I reckon Josh was like, was he a chippy?
Chippy, yep, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep,
And they were really pedantic on doing everything actually properly, like for the build,
yep,
which my experience on the block, that's extremely hard to do.
yep.
So I reckon,
Yes, it is in the sense that there's not. It's very hard in terms of things like drying times and cure times. That's where it's affected. So yeah, even in yeah the upcoming seasons and that which I'll talk about in a sec, but it's all about that. It's all about the drying times and the curing times. Everything's done like they're all qualified trade. They're all brilliant tradesmen, but it's just about the time frames that they've got to be able to achieve it. So everything's quick dry and all that kind of stuff. So that's where the challenge is, and working over the top of other trades and that type of thing. So yeah, we did that. We did help Dave Franklin on that one, and then as I just said, we've just jumped on with Paul, and Paul designed the one in Dalesford. So we are working with House 4. So Paul's done a big design for that, front and back. And we packed up the truck and packed up the ute, and yeah, drove down and got involved and helped House 4.
so this is your only second time back, is it, since doing the one with Josh?
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
So yeah, just we're in Brisbane and we're a long way away, and I don't think it ever crossed anyone's mind to contact anyone from Brisbane. I think a few contributing factors. Obviously, we've been at MIFGS for the last 2 years, and there was obviously a bit of promotion around the show garden that Paul did this year, and we got the phone call, and it was as simple as that. We'd literally just driven back, and then a week or two later, we get the phone call to say, "Hey, can you come down?" So had to try and rally the troops and say we've got to get back on the highway and head back down again. So that was yeah, a bit of sweet talking there. So yeah, we turned around and off we went and yeah, did that.
So that's like an insane cost as well, because I assume it depends how much. you're billing the client, the contestants, but most
Yeah.
people, like, no one gets paid how much they normally would get paid.
No.
So that's like someone me saying that because we are from Geelong and done it in Melbourne, but
Yeah.
we would drive back every night. It's a bit hard for you to drive back to Brisbane every night, so you've got to also pay for accommodation for yourself and the
Correct.
crew. So
Correct. So yeah, we were lucky enough that a friend of a friend had just a house, an acreage house out there that they
oh,
sort of
nice.
used as their weekender, and they'd never rented it out. It just sat there. They were pretty much at it every weekend. So we begged and grovelled and managed to get access to it. And it was 10 minutes outside of Dalesford. So very lucky. Like Channel
Mm.
9 had booked out everything in Dalesford.
Yeah,
So getting accommodation there was, yeah, impossible. So we were very, very lucky and we made it work. So yeah.
Now, what was it like? Like, did you spend much time in the town, or were you just on site or at home the whole time? So,
So
did you get a feel of what the locals' feelings were like?
without giving too much away, we were doing big hours. So we were there from sun up to sundown, and we didn't really get an opportunity to spend any time in town or touring or having a look around. The only time we'd go into town, we'd send one of the apprentices off to grab lunch, or we'd finish work and we'd just go to the pub. And that was literally it. And by then it was dark.
Yeah,
So we didn't see anything. So obviously they shut things down on the Sundays and they do all their filming and that type of thing. So Sunday was the only day that we'd actually be able to drive around and see anything. But we were exhausted.
cool.
So we literally walked up and down the street and that was it. And then we went back to the pub and had lunch, had a few beers and went home and crashed and then started up for the second week. So it was exhausting.
And it was just the 2 weeks that you were there.
It was the 2 weeks, correct. Yeah, yeah. So in the upcoming season, backyard week is the second last week, and then the front yard week is the final week. So I don't know why they did that because I'm pretty sure in other episodes and other series, sorry, it's sort of been broken up a little bit, but I'm not sure if it was to do with the fact that it was all the way out in Dalesford and they just tried to do back to back so we could just smash it out. So, but yeah, that's how that one sort of went. Yeah.
And how was it compared to 8 years ago? What was things like? Were things pretty similar, like the madness and everything?
Yeah, yeah, the madness is still well and truly there. I don't think that changes. I think the difference that we had on Dalesford, and I think it's like the block is the block and it is what it is. The difference was the sheer size. Like
Yeah,
they were massive houses and they're on massive blocks. And if I compare that to Elstonwick was like a terrace house. So yeah, I look back at Elstonwick and I go, that was easy. It wasn't, but compared to what we've just done. So yeah, I don't think I hope that they are able to sort of portray and show everyone just how big these backyards are because they're huge.
yeah.
So
That's one of the funny things I tell people every time about being like they ask what the block was like, and I'll
yeah,
tell them that they actually on TV they make it look easier than what it actually is like, which
yeah,
doesn't make any sense to me. You think they would make it look harder than what it is because they sort of
yeah,
hand things up, but it's actually
yeah.
insanely challenging to do it all. And they just make it look like it's not that hard.
Logistically, it's a nightmare. You're working over the top of trades. Everyone's fighting to be able to get in and do their thing. Like, the block cops a bit of flack, I think, for what it is and how it's done and put together. And oh, that can't happen and this can't. Oh, it does. It does, and it's hard. So I don't know what more you can say about it. And it just until you've experienced it, until you've been on it, the quality standards are high. Everything that they do is as it is, and it's yeah, there's no real smoke and mirrors from what I've seen in my time on it.
Yeah. And you mentioned before like that you just done the block. Sorry, you just done the garden show with Paul. So you
Yeah,
did his you helped out with the boutique garden that he won the year before this, so like last year.
last
Yeah.
year, yeah, the one
Yeah.
that he won, yeah, yeah.
So had you been speaking to him much prior to that? Like you hadn't done any of his designs but while you're in Queensland or anything, had you? Or
No, not really, not really. That's sort of been a new thing that Paul called me a year or two ago, and as you do with people that you're friends with in the industry, and especially someone like Paul, that's sort of a mentor to me. You just touch base and check in and see how you're going and all that kind of stuff. And Melbourne at that stage was sort of pretty quiet. And Paul had said, he goes, oh, it's a bit quiet for what he's sort of experienced in his time. And I said, oh, well, I'll start feeding you stuff up here. And we sort of thought about that and went, oh, how's this going to work? But, thanks to Skype and Zoom meetings and all that kind of stuff, we were able to make it sort of happen. So we tried a few and had great results. And here we are now. Paul's, as I said, dipping his toe in the Queensland market and doing some really nice designs and working with some of the really good pool companies up here, Queensland Family Pools. And together we're all working really, really good and things are great. So it's working. Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon if I was doing it, I would say that my Zoom and Skype don't work, so I'm going to have to come and do a site visit in person. It's going to have to come out to Noosa and check something out and take
Paul
some
has called me
measurements.
we're working on a big one in Mooloolaba at the moment, and I think Paul's called or texted me every week going, can I come up yet? Can I come up yet? I was like, no, you cannot come up yet. It's just dirt. So, but yeah, I think, yeah, he's enjoying it. It's a bit different for him in the sense that, it's completely different designs and, we're on the coast. It's tropical. It's, there's a whole lot of different factors, humidity, plants, and everything's different up here compared to down there. So I think he's enjoying the challenge of that and learning new plant names and all that type of stuff. So yeah, it's good. It's good for all of us, something fresh and new.
Yeah, it'd be so much fun for him to be, getting to use different plant palettes and sort of researching what's available, not only what lives there, but what's available, which is
Yeah.
more important. But
Yeah.
it's good for you as well to have another designer, like because that's one of the things I like doing working for other designers is the variety of how they are and how they look. Like there's
Yeah.
something similar, but it's good to get those two that you mentioned before compared to Paul are probably different because they come
Yeah.
from different backgrounds. So it's good
Yeah.
to get that variety of the type of jobs that you're building as well.
Yeah. It's good as well getting that Victorian influence up into Queensland as well, and that high end sort of flair that Melbourne has. As I said earlier, that's Queensland's sort of been a little bit behind in that sort of regard. So it is really good to see a number of companies that are getting in and getting started up here, design companies in particular that are sort of introducing that high end finish and it's good for all of us. We're doing some good work up here now and competing against everyone down there. I mean, you see it in the design awards and stuff like that. Queensland's actually having a bit more of an influence, and yeah, it's good. It's good to see. It's great for us. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no losers in that. Like everyone wins. The clients
Everybody.
win. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and there's enough work to go around. So yeah,
Yep. And so when did the first MIFGS conversation start? And like how did that look with like a year and a bit ago?
as you sort of do when you're planning these things, you sort of reach out to see who's going to help, and it was a bit of just a conversation. And what are you doing? What are your thoughts? And I said I'd come down and help out and join forces with Adam Hompus and yeah, built what we built and got the recognition I think we certainly deserved in that year. And yeah, it literally was just a question. And there's not much if Paul asks me to do something, it's very hard for me to say no.
Yeah.
Especially because I've known him for 20 plus years. So that's all it was. There was no bribery, there was no incentives or anything like that. It was just how about it, and working with Adam, who's an absolute legend, really really easy to deal with, and yeah, we just come together and join forces and built what we built, and then yeah, and then he asked us again, and then we did the big one.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, Adam is also our fellow podcast host now, so I have great respect for him more so now
he's a good fella. He's a
than
good fella.
previously. But yeah, you would have been stoked to get to have won the gold. So did you have anything to do with the stone wall that was going up there on that first one?
The first one, yeah. So Paul and I did majority of the stonework on that. There was a few prefab panels just because, as you know, stone takes so long to do. And then we installed those prefab panels, and then I basically just filled in the gaps and did all the rock walls around the front. And yeah, when I first started with Paul, that was one of his main things, 20 years ago, was all his dry stone work. So that was one of the main things that I got thrown into as an apprentice and sort of turned my hand to it. And I love working with stone, absolutely love it. So yeah, that was probably the main thing that got me interested in that one, to come down and help him with all the stone. So yeah, we did all that and it came together pretty nice. I thought it was pretty good.
And then when did the conversation about this year's one start?
Like a day after. So and he said, how about it? And I said, well, we better start working on a plan. I'm not going to commit to anything until I know what I'm building and if it's achievable. And Adam basically said the same thing. And then, yeah, again, we just sat down on afternoons and had some, Skype meetings and discussed it and pros and cons and what we could and couldn't do and all that. And then the rest is history. We built what we built and yeah.
And just casually wins best construction as well as the gold
Yeah,
medal.
just walked into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish it was that easy. It wasn't. There was literally 12 months worth of planning. Like it was a lot of time and effort goes into that. And it's constant. The phone's constantly dinging with ideas and conversation and stuff like that. So, but it's worth it. It really is worth it. I think the reward, and there was nothing better than that beer that we had when we finished. A couple of hours before the deadline, and there was nothing better than sitting down and looking at it, and even the following day, just watching people look at it, and that's the satisfaction you get. What I was alluding to earlier. When you're doing that residential work is that appreciation of what you've done and what you've achieved. There's nothing better than that feeling. So I think that's what keeps us in it.
Yeah. And I heard there were whispers going around that the Paul's going to do another one, but then I think that I think he's said that that's not happening. But had that conversation happened to you? Like, had you heard those rumors?
Yeah, yeah. It was sort of floated again. And I said to him that would be relatively reluctant to return. This year's been crazy for us. Done MIFGS and then drove back down and did the block, and we're going into the Christmas peak. So this year hasn't stopped, as well as the 12-month of planning for MIFGS before that. So it really has been crazy. So for us, it's going to be, yeah, it'd have to be something absolutely exceptional for us to really want to get involved in. So no disrespect to anyone, but we just wanted to have a rest. And I think Paul was sort of the same. He's a bit tired and worn out, and it'd be
Yeah.
good just to have a year off and reconsider things, after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, my wife is dropping international ones and trying to coerce Paul into doing, where can we go? Can we do a Singapore? Can we do and it's like,
Fair enough.
but no, I think we've sort of achieved what we wanted to achieve from being involved in the last three. Us personally was just the last two, but for Paul, three. So yeah, I think we just need a rest. You burn out,
And your wife just wants you out of the house.
or maybe that, most likely.
Have you been overseas to any of the garden shows over there?
I haven't. No, no. But again, I like ticking boxes and I like doing things that I haven't done before, and sort of experiencing as much as I possibly can. So there's certainly there is a bit of an itch there that to go over there and have a look at it and see what it's all about. You hear everyone talk about how good it is, and like even last week's podcast as well, and you sort of go, yeah, okay, that's pretty, it's next level. So yeah, I'd like to experience it. Maybe it's probably worth going over there and having a look at it first before we commit to building or doing something. But I mean, again, I'd be sort of relying on Paul to be involved in that one before
Yep.
yeah. So
Did
sort
you
of,
head to the Queensland Garden Show that was on recently?
yeah, that's up in Nambour. So that's obviously it's nowhere near the Melbourne size of Melbourne Garden Show, but there's a few little exhibits, and I think it's going to go place. I think it's going to get bigger and better. It does every year. It gets bigger and better. So it's a sort of a standard show with all your gardening stuff, and it's sort of like MIFGS, but just doesn't have the big displays. But it's got potential. My word, it's got potential, and I think there's a lot more interest in it. And people are sort of their little sort of the little things that they do just around their stalls and stuff like that are getting bigger and better, and they're starting to see the value in actually doing a little bit more landscaping and jazzing things up a bit. So I think that's one to watch. I think that could certainly be something bigger.
Yeah, I'm seeing it all around the country. So there's that one, and then Floriade in Canberra.
Yeah,
They've been getting bigger and bigger the last 3 years with their display gardens.
yeah,
West Australian Garden Show, or I don't know if it's called that, but yeah, the Western Australian one they have got display gardens there as well. So and the
yeah,
South Australian one's going on at the moment, and the crew from who did the MIFGS at South Australia,
yeah,
they've just done insane one there, like Jurgen landscape and in style, and I think distinctive part of it as well. So I think
yeah,
it's awesome that all these other ones are starting to grow.
yeah,
Like I don't think anyone should be comparing themselves to Melbourne because, like as Paul said, he reckons Melbourne is as good or if not better than Chelsea. So Melbourne
yeah.
is right up there, but it's also like 28 years old, maybe. So it doesn't just happen all of a sudden.
No, no.
But yeah, I reckon it's awesome that there's other ones getting involved.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's great for. I mean, as I said earlier, Queensland's sort of a little bit behind Victoria or and Sydney and the likes of the industries down there. So I think it's only going to benefit us in the long run. So I'd love to see more investment into it and see a heap of Queensland companies get involved in it, start giving it a crack. The reward for it's huge. So yeah, it'd be great to have one just up the road. It's in Sunshine Coast. How good's that?
Yeah, I'll come and check it out.
Yeah, come up.
Do you have any goals that you work toward? Like, are you like a long-term planner, or you just sort of roll with things as they happen?
I'm very much goal orientated. So I, yeah, very much set goals and try to achieve them and stuff like that. In terms of goals at the moment, there's not really anything. I think this year I'm a bit tired and worn out. I think the goals for the last 2 years have been MIFGS related and obviously the block this year, which was a bit of a surprise, but we got there. And yeah, there's not really anything at the moment. I'm just trying to get through to Christmas. That's my goal at the moment, just to have 3 weeks off of Christmas.
Be
So,
alive when you get there.
yeah, yeah. So that's sort of it at the moment. Nothing really. But yeah, I think I think there'll probably be a bit of chat over the next few months about where we go and what we do and how we take things. Businesses are always evolving and changing and moving and shaping. So at the moment we're doing some really nice big jobs. So I'm just focused on getting those and delivering those to a relatively not a high standard and yeah, we'll reassess once we get through to Christmas. So yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a good like.
worn out this year.
Yeah, and you don't always need to be growing or looking to increase anything. You can just sort of consolidate where you're at and make
Yeah.
things more profitable. You don't need to be making these massive big changes. Like you can just do what you're doing and just do it gradually better.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, you can get swept up in size and how big you are and how many jobs you're taking on and all that kind of jazz. But at the end of the day, it's all that stress and pressure comes back on you. And yeah, you're doing this to give yourself a better life and all that type of thing. And I think sometimes you can get caught up in it and distracted. And then before you know it, you're not living that better life that it was always planned to be or supposed to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes just do what you can
Chase,
manage and just chill.
yeah, sometimes you're just chasing the next job. You're not really thinking about why you're doing
Yeah.
everything.
100%, 100%. So, but yeah, that's where we're at. We're just sort of consolidating and we've had a big start to the year. It's been a massive year. So we'll just chew through and get through and have a big rest and then, yeah, reevaluate next year. And yeah, got some big ones planned for next year as well. Some big jobs coming in. So yeah, we'll just focus on that. Yeah.
Last question for you, Dylan, is who do you think would be a good guest to have on the podcast?
Have you had Ben French on?
Yes.
I've had Ben French. He's a legend. I'm just trying to think of someone Queensland related to try and share the love up here.
I've had a couple of your like water features. So you've got some of the best water feature makers in Queensland up there. And Daniel Taylor and Patrick Hanley as well. Look, yeah, we got and I think Kuna Ecoscapes maybe. So yeah,
Yeah.
some good ones up there. Do you ever dabble in any of them?
No, no. We just just do the standard backyards and pools. So we sort of piggyback off Queensland family pools, and we're basically just doing our high end pools and just the surrounds. So yeah, it's pretty good for us because we just sort of get fed the work after the pool company's gone in. So yeah, we just stick to that. We're not really doing anything other than that, which is comfortable. It's easy, and yeah, it's good as long as you build a good relationship with the pool builders up here because everyone moves up here and you move to Queensland, what do you want? You want a pool and a deck,
Yeah.
cut and paste. So yeah, you build those relationships with those people and you get fed work for as long as you want it. So that's handy. But yeah, I think just trying to think of who else might be a good fit for up here. I know Alex from Grandscape Solutions is one that might be worth having a chat to. He's another sort of young up and coming company, him and his brother, and they're doing great things. So I'd probably suggest getting in touch with him.
All right. Perfect. I'll do that. And thank you so much for coming on, Dylan. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what you get up to on the block. Sounds
Yeah,
like it should be fun times on there.
yeah, there's a bit that goes on. It's well worth watching. I'll give you the hot tip. Yeah, it's going to be good.